Hello everyone, it's me. Now before we get into this video, I wanted to mention that I'm going to be starting a Patreon. I've been dealing with a lot of copyright claims and even copyright strikes. I got 2 copyright strikes on my second channel and a bunch of copyright claims on this channel. And I would love to just rely on ad revenue, but we all know how YouTube isn't very consistent with that, especially when it comes to movie reviews. So if you guys would like to help out, you could hop over to my Patreon, and no, you're not obligated to do this at all. We got 2 tiers on this Patreon. The first one is literally just $1. Just if you want to help out and throw a little dollar at me, I would highly appreciate that. With the $1 tier, you just get access to the Patreon feed. And then the next tier is the $5 tier. You get your name at the end of my video. You get a day early access to my videos without ads. You get exclusive behind the scenes footage and maybe a little bit of extra movie clips in my videos, because since, you know, it's just going to be Patreon, I don't have to really worry about ads, so I could put a little bit more in there. And also, you guys are going to be able to help me create videos. I'll probably do polls. I'll ask you guys questions, you know, see what ideas you guys have, and we can bounce some ideas off of each other and see where we go from there. So if you guys would like to help, I would highly appreciate it. Honestly, one day I would love to just not rely on ads whatsoever, because thank you all. I appreciate you. Now watch my video. The Kung Fu Panda has really been one of those go-to films for me for quite a long time. I would call it the sauce of movies. And I've always enjoyed it as like a feel-good film, you know, something fun to watch with some good action, some entertaining, funny moments. But once you really peel back the layers, it's kind of crazy how deep this movie goes. Now, on the surface, we got the basic Jack Black hilarity. I mean, I love Jack Black. So there's plenty of funny moments in this movie. There's so much good animation, great action sequences, and great music. But the story of Po himself and this warped perception of who he wants to be, and then discovering the truth behind the Dragon Warrior, it has so much depth to it. They wrote it so good. Not just Po, all of the characters in this film have such good backstories, have such good motives for the things that they're doing, and everyone basically learns the same lesson in the end of the movie in their own specific way. You know, whether that be a good way or a bad way. Rewatching this with a new lens truly solidified my opinion of this movie. I always tended to just write it off as just that surface layer stuff. But honestly, I believe this movie is probably the closest thing you could get to perfection, at least in terms of DreamWorks. Yes, I know I just made a video recently talking about how I think How to Train Your Dragon is the perfect trilogy, but sorry, I think Kung Fu Panda might take the cake here. And there's actually a lot of comments on my How to Train Your Dragon video talking about, oh yeah, Kung Fu Panda is so much better. And that's actually the reason I'm doing this. It's because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see if they're actually right. And I mean, yeah, you guys are kind of right. And just so everyone knows, I most likely will cover the whole trilogy eventually. I think I'm gonna cover 2 and 3 in separate videos. I just wanted to do the first one by itself, see how it goes, see if you guys want more, and then do the other 2. I actually have never seen the other 2 films, which is another reason why I'm doing just this movie. So I'm gonna break down this film mostly by the characters themselves and the internal struggles that they all face. But first, before anything else, let's just talk about the marvel of animation and composing of this movie. I mean, the music was made by Hans Zimmer and John Powell, so of course the music's going to be absolutely incredible. But the fights as well, personally, I think my favorite fight has to be the Master Shifu and Po fight, just over the dumplings with the chopsticks and all this different cool choreography. It's either that or the fight between the Furious 5 and Tai Lung on the bridge. The fights are so unique and engaging to watch, really satisfying to see as well. And by satisfying, I mean not just the animation alone, you know, what it looks like when someone, say, punches someone or does a crazy hit, but it has to have a good combination of animation and sound. Because if the sound effects don't hit, you don't feel that impact. And there are so many anime that have incredible sound effects that really show the impact and really has that satisfying sound. I feel like this movie did a great job with the impact sounds and feeling every single hit, and also like the gelatinous sound that you get with Po's stomach and how he fights and stuff. It's so good. But the fights are really just spectacles and they're so rewatchable. But let's break down why this movie is the sauce. So let's talk about Po. He's obviously the main character, and his internal dilemma is quite similar to everyone else's, but it does, you know, focus on Po mainly. Well, honestly, his internal dilemma is something that us as humans kind of face every single day. That search for what they call inner peace, which I guess what we would refer to as like self-acceptance or contentment in a way. At the beginning of the movie, we see that Po is a really big dreamer and he wants to become a ninja. He wants to become something that he is not. And to him, it's such a far off dream that even his own father kind of just scoffs at the idea and thinks it's a joke. And I don't really want to write off Po's father as a bad father for doing that, for naysaying his dream. I just feel like this is kind of how he is. And obviously, in the context of the situation, yeah, it does seem kind of ridiculous that would be a dream of his. Po sees a flyer that they're going to be picking out the Dragon Warrior, which is this fabled legend of this warrior who's going to protect everyone. It's going to be the strongest ninja of all time. And so he tries to find a way inside because he ends up being late because his dad wanted him to bring some noodles up there. And with a little bit of help of some fireworks, he ends up actually landing right in front of Master Oogway as he's pointing at him, deeming him the Dragon Warrior because, as Master Oogway puts it, there are no accidents, and we are going to be touching on Master Oogway later. This guy is a fucking wizard. But anyway, Po deals with constant bullying from not only the Furious Five, but Shifu himself, obviously, because they all believed that one of them, especially Tigress, had the most likelihood of becoming the Dragon Warrior. So they're all pretty insulted at the fact that, oh, this random dude just comes in and is just deemed the Dragon Warrior when we've been training our entire lives. But the main reason they don't believe him to become or be the Dragon Warrior is because they all have this misconception of what the Dragon Warrior is supposed to be. And Po continuously comes back no matter how shitty it gets. And then we go to a very important scene with Po and Master Oogway. Basically, Oogway is the old wise man who dishes out the hard truths that no one really wants to hear, but they need to hear. But whenever Po talks to Master Oogway about his issues, about getting bullied and stuff, Master Oogway ended up giving him one of my favorite lines in the movie. Sure, it's a bit cliche and a little bit overused, but how it's written and the context within the movie is, it's good, it's delicious.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
So shit really starts heating up whenever Tai Lung ends up escaping prison, which we're going to talk about later. And after hearing about that, and also Master Oogway kind of just being like, yeah, you guys can deal with this shit yourself, I'm out. Po, you gotta beat him. And Po's like, nah, bro, I'm out. Screw this crap. So Shifu tries to convince Po like, yo, I'll actually teach you now. I know I've been bullying you and harassing you and kicked you down 1,000 flights of stairs, but now I want to teach you. And he keeps mentioning that he wants to turn him into the Dragon Warrior. Emphasis on that. And also something very depressing that Po says is the reason after all those times of him kicking him out and everyone bullying him, he kept coming back is because he would rather try to become something that he's not than go back to his old life.
But it could never hurt more than it did every day of my life just being me.
And Shifu's method of training him is the equivalent of hanging a string with the Snickers on it in front of a fat kid. Literally using Po's eating problem as their advantage. And then after he goes through all this training, we get this awesome scene of him and Shifu eating dumplings, and then Shifu steals all the dumplings from him. And then at the end, he was able to steal the last dumpling, and then he's like, yo,
I'm not hungry.
And I freaking love that. I love that line because just like a lot of people, it's kind of a coping mechanism to eat a bunch of food. You know, whenever you're depressed, whenever you're upset, stressed. I mean, food is really comforting in that way, and that happens to a lot of people. Okay, next we're gonna freaking talk about Tai Lung versus the Furious Five. Oh my gosh. They all fight him on the bridge, they cut off the bridge, and the little praying mantis snaps the bridge, and they do a big old combo. They wrap him up, and he throws him down, and oh, they win. Oh, they win. Wait a second, like a fucking tetherball in high school, he launches himself up, lands down, and like fucking Neji does some chakra point, pressure point shit. They're all dead. They're all dead. But that leads Shifu to allow Po to get the Dragon Scroll, the thing that is supposed to make the Dragon Warrior. It supposedly is going to give him mystical powers and learn mastery of all kung fu with this scroll. Because Master Oogway put it up there because Master Oogway is kind of a troll. I'm not gonna lie. But again, we're gonna cover Master Oogway later. But after they open the scroll and realize that there is nothing on this scroll, Shifu just assumed that Master Oogway was just a crazy old man. And he's like, all right, Po, all of you get out of here, evacuate everyone, and I'm gonna deal with Tai Lung myself, which is basically suicide for Shifu. Shifu brought him into this world, and now he's gonna take him out. I mean, he didn't give birth to him, he kind of just raised him. But the relationship between Tai Lung and Shifu is so depressing because obviously Shifu does not want to kill basically his son. Po is leaving and Tai Lung is facing Shifu, or should I say Tai Lung is just beating the shit out of Shifu.
I'm joking! Stop!
Po meets up with his father and his father finally tells Po the secret to the secret ingredient soup.
The secret ingredient is nothing.
And I love this part so freaking much because this basically puts everything that happens in this movie in like a nice bow. Everything that happened, it just clears up instantly with this one line. The ingredient is the fact that people believe it's special, or that you yourself believe it's special. Basically what he's saying, believe in yourself, self-confidence, but in a very cool way. Everyone's mindset throughout this movie was all based on the idea of a secret ingredient. The idea that there's some mystical power out there that they can reach in order to step up a level. When in reality, all it was just to push him to become the best that they could be. And then once they all realize that there is no secret ingredient, there's nothing to boost them to the next level, it's all about just accepting yourself and believing in yourself. So Po finally gets that self-confidence after realizing this, and he goes up to face Tai Lung by himself and absolutely sits on his face. Honestly, the fight between Po and Tai Lung is great. It's really just a spectacle, and it's honestly hilarious as well, just seeing Po kind of learn his style of kung fu because, you know, using his gelatinous body as a weapon itself, and him almost accidentally beating him half the time because his punches and his pressure point attacks don't work on him from all his juice. Honestly, the battle between Tai Lung and Po is so great, and you almost feel bad for Tai Lung because really the only reason he ended up like this is purely a misunderstanding, because he spent his entire life just like Tigress in order to become the Dragon Warrior. However, Master Oogway sensed that there was darkness in him, and since Master Oogway said that, that made him basically go on a rampage, and that's why he's in prison. Throwing a toddler fit for something that doesn't even exist. The fact that he didn't become the Dragon Warrior is literally the reason that he became a villain. But in the end, with the quick skadoosh, he ends up annihilating Tai Lung.
Skadoosh.
Po's dream really comes true because in the beginning, the Furious Five were kind of like bowing to him as their master, and that's kind of what happens at the end of the movie. So let's talk about Master Oogway for a second. This man right here is a goddamn troll, and he played everyone like a fiddle. He's literally the puppeteer, puppeteering everyone. So every scene with Master Oogway always has some sort of quote, some sort of life lesson, some riddle. Like for example, right when we see Master Oogway for the first time, we start with him blowing out each individual candle slowly, and then Shifu gets impatient and then blows them all out with one swift movement, showing the big difference between Master Oogway and Shifu. Master Oogway is someone who's attained inner peace, is not, you know, rushing stuff. He's very patient, he's very calm. Whereas Shifu, he's very stressed out, he's anxiety ridden, and, you know, and that makes him impatient, which is a good example here. And Oogway also believes that, you know, there's a destiny and everything happens for a reason, but I just think he's a wizard. Honestly, everything that comes out of his mouth is something that you could put on like a Instagram picture of like a landscape and post it. Boom.
Nothing is impossible. One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it.
So anyway, Shifu has a vision that Tai Lung is going to escape. And so he says, yo, it's time to pick a Dragon Warrior. And I think Master Oogway from the beginning really knew that the Dragon Warrior was not one of the Furious Five, because he would have picked them out a long time ago. Whereas he was actually using this event to get everyone in the town together in order for him to actually discover the real Dragon Warrior, which happened to be Po. So we talked about that scene before with Po and Master Oogway. And really, once you see what this movie is about, everything that's written in here is so perfectly written. Like this part right here where Po is talking about his struggle of like, man, I don't have all these things that this Furious Five have.
I mean, I'm not like the Five. I've got no claws, no wings, no venom.
He's so focused on what they have and what he doesn't have, rather than realizing that he should work with what he has and believe in who he is rather than try to be something that he's not. Which is what leads Master Oogway to basically say like, yo, focus on what's going on right now. Don't worry about what happens in the future or in the past. Not worrying about the future and not dwelling on the past are two of the most difficult things in life to do. But once you figure out how to do those things, that's kind of where that inner peace truly comes. You really start to enjoy the things that are happening rather than worrying about what's next or stressing about what you did. And then we get the last scene with Master Oogway, and he's talking to Shifu about Po, because, you know, Shifu's over there like, I what am I supposed to do? I can't make this fat panda into a dragon warrior. And it's funny because everyone is freaking out about Tai Lung except Master Oogway, because Master Oogway obviously throughout the entire thing is the dude who knows when no one else does. He uses the metaphor of the peach tree and how you should release the illusion of control.
Master, Tai Lung escaped! Look at this tree.
I mean, yeah, it's a cool tree, but remember what you did last time with Tai Lung? You like did the, 3 hits and he's out. Can you just do that again, just to make things a little bit easier?
It's a peach tree.
Right. So, yeah, about that whole thing, you want to help us out?
I'm dying.
What?
Later, bitch. I'm out. I'm going to ninja heaven. I'm going to ninja space. Later.
You really start to see how much Shifu really has to grow, because Shifu's very like regimented and forced, and he wants everything to work out how he wants it to work out rather than letting go and just believing in Po, for example. This part was, I don't know why this part was always funny to me. It's like, yeah, this whole Tai Lung shit, yeah, deal with it yourself. I'm out. Later, bitch. The reason I like Master Oogway so much is he kind of knew the result. He kind of realized that things were going to solve themselves, but he didn't want to force anything. Just like he said, he wanted to let go of that illusion of control. So he didn't tell him, like, yeah, he is actually the Dragon Warrior. He will beat him. Just stop being a bitch and train him. He just left him with these little bits and pieces of knowledge, a little bit of philosophy in order for him to learn himself, or rather I should say life teach him himself. And then in the end, when they all figure out the dragon scroll was literally just a fake, it's just another thing of Master Oogway putting a giant middle finger to them, being like, yeah, bitch. Yeah, accept yourself. Love yourself. Freaking love Master Oogway. Let's talk about Tai Lung, for example. His story is really tragic, and a part of me almost wishes he didn't die, because he did die. But this is another reason why Shifu does not have inner peace and can't really accept himself, is that guilt he holds on himself of Tai Lung. Because he raised Tai Lung to be this amazing ninja, and he was an incredible ninja. However, Master Oogway sensed that there was some darkness in him, some evil in him. And ironically, the fact that he sensed that, and the fact that he didn't allow him to read the Dragon Scroll, actually led him to become evil. And the thing is the concept of the Dragon Scroll is really interesting to me, because he didn't allow specific people to read the Dragon Scroll. And I think the reason for that isn't just the fact that obviously Po is like, special, but it's the fact that he didn't believe that they would be able to accept the fact that there's nothing there. I mean, for example, at the end, whenever Tai Lung looks at the scroll and sees nothing's there, he starts freaking out. Basically, his entire world was flipped upside down, because this thing that he's been so angry over, that he's been working his entire life to get, is just nothing. It's a figment of his imagination. I can't even imagine like the frustration and sadness in Tai Lung himself. Don't get me wrong, Tai Lung's kind of like, an asshole. Like the scene where he breaks out of the prison is so freaking cool. I mean, he murders like 1,000 people to get out, and climbing up the falling rocks and using the dynamite to blow it. Dude, that whole scene was so freaking cool. Tai Lung's kind of a badass. Honestly, I kind of wish he had a little bit of a redemption arc, because I feel like he was more misunderstood than anything else. Everyone's issues is literally just from this dragon scroll. I mean, look at Tigress. Tigress was almost to the level of Tai Lung. She's, you know, a really good ninja, but Shifu didn't treat her the same that Tai Lung was treated because he had that guilt on his conscience and he was never really happy again because of that. And so she really had something to prove. She desperately wanted to become the Dragon Warrior in order to receive a proud Shifu, a happy Shifu, in order to give him his inner peace. And the final line I want to talk about in this movie is when Poe says, "I'm not a big fat panda, I'm the big fat panda." And I know it's kind of sounds like a meme, but I feel like this was like the confirmation of his self-acceptance, is he's like happy with who he is rather than wanting to be something else. Basically, he doesn't feel like a nobody anymore and he accepts himself for who he is. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first Kung Fu Panda movie. Absolute freaking masterpiece. I love this movie. If you guys want me to review 2 and 3, please leave in the comments below that you do, and like the video, share it with your friends, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.